All right, so let's jump into the first one. First topic, is it okay to polish first? When I was in hygiene school, we had a very strict protocol on how to learn, and we always had the same sequence, like scaling before polishing. And then one day I had a patient that was a senior citizen, and she had no calculus, she just had plaque, that was it. So I turned to a part-time instructor that was pretty flexible with things, and I asked her, I said, she has no calculus, can I just polish first? And she goes, yeah, go ahead, go ahead. And that was kind of like my first thought of like, yeah, why don't we polish first, And so when I got into the real world, I basically started doing that, and I do it quite often. But what do you guys think about the whole concept of polishing first?
I'll go. I think it's pretty beneficial. I mean, a lot of people just haven't even tried it in the first place, and they'll instantly jump back to the hygiene school regimen of no, polishing is always last for whatever reason that they have. And when you actually start trying, you realize that you remove all soft, you know, uh, biofilm, you remove any material alba, whatever you have, and then on top of that, it kind of removes the pellicle layer off of the calculus and the tooth, which I think reduces the friction when you're actually scaling, makes it easier to remove.
And I,
Andrew?
and I guess, the first time I encountered this, I was like you in school. I went very systematically through that, and I'd been practicing probably 4 years before I found another hygienist that actually did polish first. And I asked her why she did it. She, for the same exact reasons Daniel just said. She said it makes it less slippery when I'm trying to scale. And so, I think that there are benefits to it for sure. I tried to think of some cons, and I really couldn't, other than maybe, you might have to do another quick polish at the very end, maybe if you want to clean up some stain, or I don't know. But I guess as a general rule, if people come in with a lot of plaque, oh heck yeah, I'm gonna do that first. If it's just a little bit of calculus on the lower end tiers or whatever, I'll scale that first and then go back to polishing last.
Some have said that it burnishes the calculus and makes it more difficult to remove. What do you guys think of that? I mean, I haven't found that at all.
Never, not once.
Yeah, I've never found that to be true.
How often do you guys do it, though? I mean, I probably do it maybe, I would say 95% of the time I'll polish first. Sometimes, like, if a patient has, like, heavy calculus on 24, 25, I'll just, scale that real quick and then polish and maybe then scale a little bit after. So how often do you guys polish first? Is it your standard way of doing things, or?
For me, it's just kind of random. I see if they've got a lot of plaque, I'll just go right away to polishing first. If I want to concentrate on a calculus bridge or something, I'll start there first. But I find it's most useful 22 to 27 lingual. So if that's where I'm really concentrating and I've got just that marginal calculus going on, then I'll polish first because it just pops right off once you get all that pellicle, all that biofilm off.
And I would take your 95% and flip it upside down. I probably do it 5% of the time first. And then I guess, also depends on if I'm doing, Cavitron, ultrasonic debridement first or last. I mean, because I feel like a lot of the times if I'm using the Cavitron, it does remove a lot of that soft layer first and kind of sprays it out, so I don't have to worry about that.
Mhm. For me, even with SRP, I find it beneficial because I like to get rid of the soft stuff, kind of get it out of the way, and I can see the calculus better, and it's less slippery, like you guys said. But to me, like trying to, even with a Cavitron, like going through the plaque, it seems like it's not as efficient as the either like the prophy angle or air polishing, either way. But I don't know. But I mean, all depends on the patient. Like if it's heavy calculus, like localized, I'll get rid of that first, like I said, and then polish and then scale a little bit, basically after
It's
that.
definitely an interesting concept to think about. I mean, I guess I really haven't thought about it too much, and maybe it's indoctrinated from hygiene school. But I think it probably this week I'm going to give it a whirl and
Good.
see how it goes, and see if I notice any difference, if it gets easier or whatever. I just don't. Well, you mentioned on the little forum that we filled out about it being confusing for patients,
Mhm.
and I guess that's kind of my only concern too. Is I don't want to throw them out of their rhythm that they've been having with their hygienist for the last 30 years or whatever.
So when you guys do polish first, though, do you normally not polish again after, even like just here or there, or do you guys commonly polish again?
It just depends on if there's much
Yeah.
stain left over.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of stain, like in grooves and whatnot, then I'll actually just take a scaler to that. But otherwise, if there's some left over, I'll just do it again. Because I find that I rarely actually go through a whole Profi tiny little cup of polish anyway, so there's always some left over.
Yeah, same with me. I don't ever go through a whole thing. It's like maybe half, something like that, usually.
I remember when I was first out of school, and my brother and I worked in the same clinic, and we were trying to one-up each other all the time, right? And so I thought that was a really positive thing that I was like, well, yeah, I almost use all my Profi paste. How come you don't use that much? Man, I felt so stupid. Later on now that I've been doing this for a while, I'm just like, that is the stupidest thing to want to brag about.
Yeah, exactly. I've had maybe like 1 or 2 patients that I recall that asked me if I was going to polish. But I mean, I already polished. I polished first, and I scaled. And they asked me if I was going to polish, and I said, well, I kind of already did, you know. So I think for them, or like one of the people, maybe I just did like a quick anterior polish or something. But yeah, so I think it could happen. You know, patients maybe get confused, but I think if you explain it to them, you know, they realize, okay, yeah, okay, I get it now, I guess. And then
I think it opens up the door too when you polish first. It kind of gives you a reason to talk to them about their home care right at the very, very beginning. Because by the time of the end of the appointment, oftentimes they're so tired of listening to you. I mean, I talk a lot, and so I'm telling stories the whole time or whatever. And so they kind of, I don't want to say they tune out, but they kind of know it's coming, right? They're like, okay, the end of the appointment, I'm going to get the big lecture, the big speech. The doctor's going to come in and give me that same lecture and big speech. But if you're polishing first, I think you say, okay, well, this is the reason why I'm doing it, because you have a lot of plaque here, or for whatever reasons you want to do it. It kind of gives you a quick, let me give you some instructions right now, and then I'll give you some more at the end, and it's probably pretty helpful for the patient.
Mm-hmm. See, in my state, some assistants, if you're certified, you can polish only. So I think in that situation too, that sequence makes more sense, because when I first started with a company that I work for now, we have a lot of the certified dental assistants that can polish. So I remember like early on, I had one assistant that was, because I was kind of new, so she was kind of like managing the situation. It was a very high-paced situation. So she was like, Mark, can you scale that person, and then I'll polish after. And that got me thinking about it too. It's like, no, it's better if you polish first, then I scale, so I can see what's left, you know. So like in those situations too, I think that sequence is very beneficial, whether it's a hygienist coming after for scaling or a dentist coming after, to have the certified assistant that can polish to polish first, to clear the way for you to come in later, you know. As opposed to trying to scale, because I know me, if I scale first and then I polish, I'll often find stuff after the polish, you know. So you can have the hygienist come back, you know, hey, it's more stuff, you know.
Definitely a good workflow if you have an assistant to help you kind of do your hygiene problems.
Yeah, well, we're like crazy overbooked, so there's never enough people. But all right. Any more comments on polishing? Do you guys use medium grit, fine grit? I know that was a discussion on Hygiene Town at one point. I use coarse a lot. Because
I usually stick to medium.
Yeah. I use medium or coarse, but coarse mostly.
I feel like, in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of coffee drinkers here.
Yeah.
And so I like that coarse just to get through it quickly. I'm not too worried about, I know they say kind of, well, some people say that it damages the enamel layer and things like that, but I'm not too worried about that for right now. The 2 cleanings a year, I don't feel are really going to do that much damage.
Yeah, not brushing too also damages the enamel. so all right. So any more comments about polishing? We'll go to the next topic. No, nothing? All right, it's pretty straightforward, I think, because we all agree.
Yeah.
All right, second one is compensation, how hygienists get paid. Commission versus hourly versus salary. Sometimes it's a combination of some of those. Personally, I get paid hourly. I would prefer commission. Not in my situation now. It wouldn't really work, and I can get into that in a second why. But I like the commission idea. I think it's a potential to make more money, but you take on more risk, obviously, because there's no guarantee you're going to have the production that day or whatever. So So what do you guys think about the different ways of getting paid as a hygienist?
Well, I'm hourly right now, and I've been hourly my whole entire career except for about a 3 or 4 month stint where I was salary. And I actually kind of petitioned the doctor to say, hey, let me go on salary, because what was happening with my hourly wage at the time, I was in private practice, and one of the reasons why I don't like hourly that much is because if I didn't have a patient, or if, I don't know, something, and we were just getting really slow, I'd have to go clock out. And I was supposed to be guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, I was supposed to have 32 hours a week at this particular office. And by the end of the week, I'd have 28, 27 hours. And at the time, it was my only income, and he paid monthly. And so I wasn't making that much money. Over that month, I was taking a huge hit. And so I petitioned and said, hey, let me be salary. Let me have, a flat rate of this, and I'll come in on 5 days a week, and I'll do this, and I'll do this extra stuff. It didn't really work out because he kept looking at my numbers, not really changing too much, but there's all a bunch. I was doing like ordering, and I was doing a bunch of extra stuff around the office instead, and it just didn't really work out. And I ended up leaving that practice anyways. I think the only thing that I really don't like, I actually hate commission. I hate it so much because I feel like a lot of the hygienists, and especially associate doctors and other people that are paid on commission, start doing a lot of unethical treatment. And I don't say that all of them do, but I would say it opens up the door, and there's a lot of temptation to maybe, instead of doing a prophy with a re-eval in a few months and seeing how things are going, then going to the SRP, they'll jump right into the SRP whether the patient needs it or not. It's kind of my own opinion of it.
Daniel?
I've only ever been paid salary, so I'm not really sure what my personal pros and cons would be. But I'm sorry, I've only ever been paid hourly. I had the option of salary when I first started my job, but I chose hourly instead so that I could squeeze in those 2 or 3 hours of overtime that I get per week. So I think overall I gain more from being hourly, and I work in a very atypical clinic, so patient flow, patients not showing up doesn't affect me at all. Like, nobody can show up all day and I'll still get paid. Right. So it doesn't make that much of a difference to me. It's like, thank you, government. But my clinic is changing union soon. And depending on how negotiations go, it might make more sense to me in the future to go on salary versus staying hourly. So I don't know how that's going to turn out, but I've never had any experience with commission. I do agree that with Andy that it might, for the right or the wrong kind of person, it might incentivize over-prescribing, over-treating. And that's already a problem in dentistry, even without being on commission, with doctors pushing, a 3mm pocket with, a barely visible amount of blood is arrested on every side around the tooth. So, right. There's just more incentive for that to happen. But, that's not to assume that everybody who is on commission is unethical like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's definitely an incentive, but I think it can go the other way too. If you were in a salary or hourly position and you're not really, say you have like a lot of no-shows and stuff, like the incentive to get people in is not there either. To actually treat people, I think I'll say in general terms. I don't want to say any specific place, but I think it's common, for like sealants, for example. If the insurance is going to pay, which they usually pay 100%. If they're going to pay, doctors will, and hygienists do if they're on commission, will push. No matter if the kid needs it, they're low risk or high risk or whatever, they have shallow grooves that they're going to be slapping sealants on. And probably not doing it as well as they could because they want to get them done quickly.
Right.
But
I think, in an ideal kind of office setup, let's say private practice, though, I think most of us work, or I think all three of us work in either corporate or government. Yeah. In an ideal practice, it would be I would have my front desk staff on some sort of a commission to get the patients in, get them in. But then my back office staff, either salary or something. If it is commission based, it's not going to be based on dollars of how much treatment that you put in and things like that. I mean, it has to be something else. Maybe based on like patient satisfaction surveys and things like that and really promote the practice rather than promoting the individual or just something in maybe in that way.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna get paid straight commission, whether you're a dentist or a hygienist, that potential should be higher than what you would get paid hourly because you're taking a risk. So if you have a full schedule, then you should be making more than, like, say the average in your area is whatever, say 35 bucks an hour. I mean, you should be making a lot more than 35 bucks an hour, maybe like around 45 or up or whatever. Because I think a lot of clinics probably see it as, we'll put the hygienist on commission, but their potential is going to be pretty much the same as 35 bucks an hour. So what's the point? Because all you're doing is just transferring the risk to the hygienist,
right?
For no shows, So if you're going to do it, I mean, I think hygienists should push for a higher potential return on that, But I don't think a lot of hygienists do much pushing for themselves, But it's quite popular to have a combination too, like have a base day rate. If you're going to get paid either $250 a day or 20 bucks an hour guaranteed, and then above that, commission. So sometimes I have like a hybrid system.
Right.
I feel like that'll be the best of both worlds.
It might be, yeah. For me, I've always been hourly, or I was salary in the Air Force, of course, and they used to make us work a lot more hours than we got paid for. But yeah, I think I would do it, and I mean, obviously, I'm not one of those that's gonna do crappy work to make money, but I get the point that you guys are making, and I agree because I see it all the time. People pushing it too much, just to make the money. Because I guaranteed, if they didn't pay for sealants, and everybody was getting paid just a straight salary, the amount of sealants would drop. You know what I'm saying? Guaranteed.
It's true.
Which is sad. Which is sad to say. It's very sad to say that it's actually somewhat common. But yeah.
I think if everyone had perfect integrity and can be completely honest about everything, I think that either commission or salary, they both have their benefits and they both have kind of their downfalls. And I think that the owner doctor has to have integrity also, not to screw over the employees, because I'll work hard, I'll do the best I can to try and make the practice profitable and in whatever capacity they want me to. If they want to pay me commission, I'll do it and I'll work hard, but I'm going to be ethical about it.
Mm-hmm. I used to work with a hygienist, and Daniel can probably talk to this. I don't know exactly how you guys get paid, Daniel. I kind of forgot because you mentioned before how the clinic gets paid, not you.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked with a hygienist that used to work at a community health center in Rhode Island, and they were paid per encounter.
Right.
So now you get the opposite effect. I mean, well, in her case at least. I don't know about your case, Daniel, but
same.
In her case, yeah. So in her case, what happened basically was the higher ups would say, okay, this kid comes in, the kid gets a prophy, fluoride, whatever, and the kid needs 4 sealants, no cavities, good to go, needs 4 sealants. They'll have the kid come back, which is fine. Okay, I mean, he was there for a prophy and exam. He comes back for the sealants. They tell her to do 2 sealants. Why? That's 2 encounters.
Right.
So he would do 2 sealants. So it can go the opposite way too. Is the point, I guess. Because people always say, oh, they should just base, don't pay per procedure because you have all these incentives that go the wrong way.
Right.
It also happens the other way too. Now you're just playing with the patient's time just
Mm-hmm.
to get money, But
yeah, that's pretty much how it works for us. I believe the encounter-based system is actually a little more lucrative than the procedure-based system. For similar clinics that I know of in New York City that are on the procedure-based system, they are basically doing PRRs on every single patient that walks through the door, like 5 per visit or something like that. And it's just speaking from a dentist's friend's experience when he was working at one of these places, and he said it was the most unethical environment that he'd ever been in. And on the flip side, with the encounter-based system, like I have, there are some places that will do like the most minute procedures and just have one patient in and then reschedule them for something else that could have been done in the same day. We're somewhere in between. We do work on the encounter-based system, but we have one patient every half hour, and that's it. So we don't overload or overbook anyone. Mm-hmm. And if it makes sense to do a procedure that, like, say, a doctor's doing a MO on 4 and the patient also has a DO on 5, then if they have time to do it and it's already necessary, they just do it anyway. We have the freedom to make our judgment call if we have the time, if the patient showed up on time, all of that. So I feel like my particular clinic is one of those exceptions where we actually work the system to our benefit, but also do it ethically.
Right.
But that's
Yeah,
rare.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say yeah, because like you're basically dealing with low-income people for the most part, and you're, I mean, kind of messing with their time, and like a lot of them have issues, getting to the clinic, because they have to go on the bus, they got to bring their kid, you know what I'm saying? So for them to get to the clinic, it's a lot more of a challenge than your average middle-class person. So now you're just like dicking with their time, It's like that's pretty annoying, but
Yeah, that's what I'm really thankful for in environmental work is that besides just being a dental clinic, with FQC we've got everything, but we're also a fully licensed mental health facility, and mental health gets incredible payout from the government and the state, and so they subsidize the dental clinic, so we don't have an incentive to, or we're not pushed to do these things, to do all that. And at our clinic, we actually provide Metro cards, New York City transit passes, to patients when they show up for their visits, so that even that's covered for them. Like,
yeah.
and a lot of it is because not just because of all the funding we get from the federal and state level, but we also have such an entire dedicated team to fundraising that we just get all these funds from various charitable organizations and donors and whatnot. So we're really well funded to practice ethically.
So it kind of sounds like probably like you were saying, Daniel. I think the best system would be a combination of a base, just a guaranteed base for those, because most hygienists are like most employees. They don't want to take the risk. They're employees for a reason. Well, because they want the security. They want the, what I'm saying? They want the guaranteed hours per week to pay their bills. So you really can't ask them to take too much risk unless they want to. And if you do, you have to offer them more money, which most hygienists, they won't fight for it. You know what I'm saying? But, anyways, so that's probably the best system. But I was saying in my office, so why it wouldn't work is because, like, say for example, like on a one doctor day, if we have one doctor, there's one hygienist is me, and I have one assistant. But that assistant usually is a certified assistant that can polish and do sealants and that kind of stuff. So the issue there is the doctors get paid commission. So every sealant that gets done in the clinic, they get paid for it. So it would be tough. Like, okay, so if you start paying me commission, who's going to get paid for that sealant, that I do or that the assistant does? You know what I'm saying? And the sealants is like where the big money is. So if the assistants can do sealants, then it makes sense for them to do it, and I'm doing the $50 pro fee in the back with the adult. So I'm gonna get stuck with a $50 pro fee, and I don't get the, you know what I'm saying? So like that won't work in my office, but for that reason, like, so for me, the only way it will work is to have my own schedule. But or just pay me for all the hygiene procedures and have the assistant get a percentage of it or get paid hourly or whatever. But that's not gonna happen. So
we're a managed care organization, so it's even more different than most of that. Our doctors are paid salary. They don't make commission based on doing treatment, things like that. So I feel like they can, work pretty ethically. There's also a lot of checks and balances with their upper bosses and things like that to make sure that they're doing all the treatment they need to be doing, but not over treating. They do chart audits and things like that. So it's a pretty decent system. But like you guys were saying, there's obviously because I don't want to say guaranteed our hours, but we're kind of guaranteed our 40 hours every week. If the patient doesn't show up, and I know I've done it, my feelings don't get hurt. I don't care. Because I know that there's other things I can be doing outside work and stuff like that, but there's no incentive for me to work even harder to go call somebody in to see if they can come in and then see them in 40 minutes and then, maybe behind on my next patient and throw my whole schedule in the loop on the off chance that someone could do it. So there's no incentive there.
I remember Trisha O'Hare mentioned that when she was working a while ago in Arizona that she worked on full 100% commission, no hourly rate, or something similar to that. But she actually hired her own assistant. Yeah, so she got to have her own assistant and completely direct her as she did, paid her however much she paid her, and that worked out for her for a number of years, I believe.
Yeah, I think she mentioned that they paid her 50%, which is high. Like normally it's about 30% or a third, 33%. That's the common percentage. So, but she asked for 50, but she hired the assistant herself. But so it worked out for her. Yeah, I mean that to me is like thinking outside the box,
Hmm.
and some employers will be open to it. So
Yeah, that takes the assistant off their payroll.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, my office is pretty good as far as not making its clock out. I mean, sometimes if we have no patients before lunch or whatever, we clock out early or clock out early leaving home. But I've heard many hygienists say that if a patient doesn't show, then they make them clock out, which to me is not right, because you're there for 8 hours or whatever it is. I can see leaving early for lunch or going home early, but to make them clock out, I mean, again, that's putting the risk back on the hygienist for a no-show, and they're getting paid hourly, they're not getting paid commission, so that's not really right. I don't think.
And,
I think it's illegal in most states.
It probably is.
I've had to clock out for 40 minutes, at 10:20 in the morning when I finally figured out my patient wasn't showing up. So I clock out. I'd sit there until my 11 o'clock patient shows up, clock back in, and go back to work, and it's terrible.
Yeah, I think they call it something like standby time or something, because you're basically standing by to treat, because you can't go home. You can't. I mean, where are you gonna go?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't do anything.
Ready, willing, and able. That's usually the verbiage behind it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's BS. But of course, in today's economy, a lot of hygienists don't really feel they can say anything, which is unfortunate. But
That's probably why the problem persists, is because nobody's standing up to these dentists about these illegal work practices.
yeah.
I wouldn't fly for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be like, okay, I don't mind clocking out early for lunch, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just sit here, go sit in the parking lot or something, whatever, or the break room,
Yeah.
All right. So any more comments about pay and pros and cons or anything? You guys are good on that?
Yeah.
All right. So next topic is power scaling versus hand scaling. I'm a big power scaler. I'm a big proponent of it. I probably do about 80% at least of power scaling to hand scaling. I would do a lot more if I didn't have to work out of 8 chairs, because I only have 3 scalers that I own. I have 3, and they're on carts. So sometimes I'll see a patient, like a kid usually, and they have calculus, but I'm like, I gotta go drag my scaler over here. So a lot of times I'll just hand scale those patients. But I would do even more power scaling if I didn't have that issue. I'll probably be like 95% power scaling if that wasn't the case. So you guys think about that, power scaling versus hand scaling? Are some hygienists hand scaling too much, or what do you guys think about that?
So real quick though, they have those adapters you can put on your little high speed for a power scaler. They're not that great, but
The Titan, they call that sonic. Yeah.
You never use those? You don't like
I haven't used them, but I hear bad things.
Yeah, they're not great for if you're going to always be doing it. But if you're like a 12-year-old or whatever that did that bridge calculus, it knocks it off real quick and easy, and it's really portable. Just get 2 or 3 of those, and you should be set.
Yeah.
But
maybe I'll try one, but in the future, but
I'll have a review on it.
Review it.
Yeah, I'll call the company, see if I can get a free sample. Yeah. So, go ahead, Daniel.
I'm about 50-50 hand scaling, power scaling. It'd probably be a little more power scaling, but my tips are starting to wear out, and I just ordered those Parkell Burnett tips, so hopefully those work out pretty well. Yeah. I do believe hygienists are hand scaling too much, and a lot of it just goes back to hygiene school, where we were basically indoctrinated that it's only hand scaling is the end-all be-all of scaling, and it's such malarkey. It just really is. There's no reason to be putting your hands through that much stress. There's things that power scaling does that manual scaling cannot, like just clearing out that, those pockets of biofilm, the cavitation and whatnot. And the same is true for hand scaling. Sometimes it just makes more sense to, pop off a quick piece of calculus than having a patient, open and get the suction out and everything and all that for power scaling. But I do believe it's heavily underutilized, and there's just a stigma against it that really needs to die. It really, really needs to die.
Yeah, now I look back on hygiene school, it just seemed like, wow, we spent a lot of time on hand scaling. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of time, like all the little angles and every little instrument. I'm like, just power scale, man. That's what I think. I don't know.
A lot of that just comes with experience too. You could learn that in the field.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys think? Go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
I'll just say, for the longest time, I worked in an area that I would probably do 80% or more hand scaling. But I just moved, like just in the last month and a half, I moved over to the Portland area, and I find myself using that Cavitron so much. There's so much perio, which, I mean, I guess I was a little bit spoiled out where I was in a place called Yakima, which is right in the middle of the state of Washington, and I mean, we were so lucky that we didn't really have perio issues. We didn't have a lot of rampant decay coming in. Our patient base is just awesome. But now that I've come over here, I would say I'm almost 50-50 now with the power scalers, and it's not as cumbersome as I thought it was going to be. I think my only issue with power scaling in general is I find that there are hygienists that are a little bit too reliant on them, and so right underneath the contact, I always find calculus on patients that have pretty healthy tissues. There's not enough room to really get that scaler, the tip in there. And so, I'll be flossing, my floss will just shred to pieces, and the patient will say, yeah, they never used to use these instruments on me. I've always had the water gun on me and stuff like that.
Water gun,
I think that's my only reason why I still hand scale quite a bit. So I'm still finding a lot of residual calculus underneath those contacts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I use both the power tip that Daniel just mentioned and perio tips a lot. Mostly the power tip, but so the perio tip will sometimes get into the contacts on some patients, but I still find that with some patients you still need to use the sickle to get in there. But other than that, though, I think you can probably get away with it. I took a course on Hygiene Town with power scale. I forgot who the instructor was. A while ago. It was many years ago.
It's an old video, right?
Was that? Yeah, old video. Yeah.
I meant to watch it. It was good.
Yeah, it was good. She advocates basically to use ultrasonic scaling for the most part, and I know the people that use the perioscope, well, some of them at least, they advocate also using just power scaling. Pretty much, that's it. But I always question about the contacts. I mean, because other than the contacts, yeah, I think you can get away with it. But the contacts, that's where I have to really get in there, like between, like the lower anteriors, especially like to get in those tight contacts. But other than that, I think you can pretty much get away with it. I think there's sometimes with sheet calculus, it's a little bit easier to get with the hand scaling.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the habit, like early on to use the power scaler and then kind of give up on it quick and then go to the hand scaling. So like over the years, I'm doing less and less and less hand scaling, but I still can't see me being 100%. I mean, I want it to be 100%, so I can just get rid of my hand scalers, but I don't think that's going to be the case anytime soon.
I think it goes back to what Daniel was saying about, you can learn a bunch of stuff after school. You learn about fluting, you learn about your furcations, you learn, there's a lot of consistencies in the mouth that you just can't learn when you're trying to absorb all this other stuff in 2 years, when you just jam all that crap down your throat. But once you actually get in the field, don't give up too early on that power scaler, because you're not going to learn to know where all the grooves and indentations and things like that are at. And like I said, I can't believe how much power scaling is really coming into my life in this last month and a half, and then how many there's so many indications for using it. And then going back to what we were talking about earlier, is I think that polishing first before you're doing power scaling is actually beneficial in this case, because a lot of times you have those decalcification areas that that's one of the only reasons I can think of to not use a power scaler, is if there's a bunch of areas that are decalcified, you break them out pretty easy if you're not being careful. But
yeah,
they're like wet chalk.
Yeah,
exactly. I think part of the challenge for a lot of hygienists is they probably working with worn out tips too.
Mm-hmm.
So in their mind, like, yeah, the Cavitron's not really getting this stuff off, because they have tips that are 2 years old that are all worn out, So I think that's part of the problem too. I think if they had nice tips and they replaced them once a year or whatever, they would have a different view. At least some of them, not all, but.
Yeah, my tips are all about 2 years old now. Now they're all wearing out. Like, some of them even stopped vibrating.
Yeah.
I think there's a lack of education too. I think, like you were saying, in school, there was no emphasis. There was no, and then even now, there's no incentive to learn a new trade. I mean, why would you? This is the way you've always done it. It's working for you. Other than the fear of potentially your carpal tunnel and all these things that might happen in the future that no one's really paying attention to. I mean, what's the incentive? And where are you going to find this information? So right now we're switching over to Cavitron brand instead of Parkel. I don't really know why. Maybe our company's getting a big discount, or maybe there's some incentive. I'm still, I don't really know a whole lot about the 25K versus 30K. There's a bunch of other things that I know I need to learn about these power scalers that, because there's so much, it feels kind of like a daunting task, and I don't really want to invest the time or the money to learn something if it's not going to benefit me like right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think too in school, like we didn't use any. We had left and right tips, but again, those were like they made us buy a universal tip and a thin tip, but even that thin tip wasn't really that thin. And then they had like old tips that were like left and right tips, but we didn't have any perio like true perio tips. I didn't try those till later, years later when I got my own. So that's another challenge too. I think a lot of hygienists only have universal tips too.
Yeah.
That's all they have. That's all they know, and they don't know anything about perio tips and so on and so forth, or diamond coated tips, which I wouldn't use sub without a periscope. But I mean, blindly, I wouldn't use it. But
I'm all about using it sub. I just go at it.
Yeah. Someday hopefully I'll have a periscope one day. That's kind of one of my things that I want to do in the future. But we'll see how it actually works. I'm actually seeing what's happening down there. Because I always think about that. Like, studies show that no matter how good we are, we always miss stuff because we're working blind. So, so what brands do you guys use now? So you have a Cavitron brand now, Andrew? You said?
We're switching over to them as the Parkel start to wear out or break or whatever. Whenever so we have 50 some odd offices, and each one has 2 to 15 ultrasonic units. So it's quite an investment for our company just to kind of go ahead and just buy everyone a brand new one. So we're starting to switch over. I still use Parkel right now. I don't have a problem with them, but again, I'm not seeing underneath the gums to see what's going on. We've had some really, really good response. A lot of healing rates with them. So
yeah. How about you, Daniel? You guys use any name like Cavitron brand or?
Are we talking about the inserts or the base?
Both. Yeah.
Both. Yeah. The base machine right now is actually a Parkel, the Turbo Touch, which is nice because it actually I don't have 25K tips, but apparently it uses both 25K and 30K. It doesn't matter what you put in. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even know that was a thing. So that's cool. But as far as I know, the machine itself doesn't really matter. Unless there's some sort of brand new technology, like everything I've read is like the machine doesn't matter. All it is a water line and an electric feed and a dial. Mm-hmm. But so that's like I don't see the point of all these machines that are like thousands and thousands of dollars. The Turbo Touchers are like 500. So as far as the tips though, we are currently all Cavitron tips. Mm-hmm. But I have the whole variety. I've got the diamond tip, the heavy blue ones, universal green, some perio purple ones. I even have one of those yellow implant tips, which I don't even use anymore because I just use regular tip now because the technology or the treatment modalities have changed for implants. But yeah, like I really don't see what the real differences are beyond tip style.
Yeah, I have the Parkel Integra. I have 2 of those, and then I bought it's called a Little Beaver. It's kind of like a cheaper version. It's like $800. I can feel a difference between the Parkel and that, but it's not like a huge difference though, But what I don't feel is between like a Parkel and a Cavitron brand. I didn't feel much difference at all. So I agree, like the tip is really the main thing, like a quality tip and a crap tip. But for the most part, I think the actual machine is not any huge difference at all. And for me, Parkel is like a nice mid-range brand as far as price. The Cavitron brand is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I'm sure the quality is a little bit better, like on the insides and stuff, but for me, the Parkel has been working well, so I'm happy with it. Have you guys tried piezo? You guys don't like it, or if you have?
I temp in an office that only has piezo, and I guess they have one like universal type tip, which I find way too large to fit under contacts or really do anything with subgingivally. So I don't know if all paratips are like that, but that's the only experience I've had with them.
Was that a Pro Select brand? Do you remember?
Ooh, I don't know. I think maybe it was a Titan or something, the one that screwed right into the.
Oh, that's different. Yeah.
Had a light.
Yeah.
That was nice.
I had a Pro Select piezo in my first op, which is a high quality scaler. It's a lot of money. It's like $3,500, I think. And that one did have only one size universal tip, and that was it. It worked really well. It was just that one size, I think, was the issue. I think having at least a perio tip would be nice. But piezos in general, though, they do come with a lot of different size and types of tips, though. More than the magneto type. But to me, I mean, they work well, but I think for me it's just a personal preference. I like the magneto style, personally. I've used both, so. Andrew, what do you think? A piezo? Have you tried one? Or?
I've never had experience with piezo. I've read a lot about the differences, but
yeah, don't bother.
I found it really difficult to try and get to right between the contacts with it, because you have to use it on the lateral edges, right? So unlike a magnetostrictive, I couldn't just contort my body and get it exactly where I want it to go.
Yeah. That was my main issue too. I had a very long, skinny perio tip on one of those, which helped a lot, but I still felt the same way. Yeah, I felt like I was trying to get the lateral side all the time, and sometimes it was awkward to get it in there. But there are quite a few hygienists out there that really like the piezo over the magneto, so I really can't jump on that too much. I think it's just a personal preference, though. But either way,
another one of those things that just comes with experience that should have been taught in hygiene school.
Yay! Maybe. Yeah. All right. Let's see. So any more comments on that? I think we hit all the points. All right. So let's go to the bonus question I want to throw in only because it's been on the news. It's somewhat dental related, but so I want to jump in. The Cecil the Lion situation where the American dentist went over to Africa and shot that popular lion, Cecil, and the thing went viral, and I think the guy did not expect that whatsoever, and it just went kind of crazy. So what do you guys think of the whole situation in general, and what do you guys think of the fact that for some reason the media keeps calling the guy, I mean, he is a dentist, but it keeps bringing up the fact that he's a dentist, which I don't understand why that really matters, but what do you guys think?
I think people just really love to hate dentists. They don't see dentists as real doctors. Nobody knows how long a dentist actually goes to school for. Like, a lot of patients ask me, how long does it take to become a dentist? And I'm like, we can give or take 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're just blown away. And so there's not that same level of respect as a physician, but they know that dentists, quote unquote, make buttloads of money classically. And so I think this is just really easy targets for negative publicity like that, which is why everyone was so happy to just tear this guy to pieces.
Yeah, I think part of it too is just that. Yeah, I think it's almost like shorthand for saying, "Hey, here's a rich white guy from the West," because people just see dentists as rich, and they just see, hey, what's this guy? This arrogant American rich bastard, that comes over here, but. So what do you think, Andrew? Why do they keep calling, bring this fact up that he's a dentist?
I don't know. Yeah. I think it's just so stupid. I think that, for the exact same reasons why you guys said. I mean, I think, for the rest of the world, I think we're kind of, these rich Americans coming over and just doing whatever the crap we want, shooting whatever we want. We all own guns, right? So you might as well. We're all rich, so. I think that we kind of got bastardized there a little bit. But then I think, though, in the United States, there's that overall fear of, no one wants to go to the dentist anyways. And so let's get push that hot topic button and kablamo, there it is. I mean, if you would have said a rich, or not a rich, but a hygienist went over and did it, sure, they probably still would have mentioned it, but probably not to the same degree.
Yeah, probably just once, yeah.
Yeah, or a physician, same thing. Well, if they would have been a lawyer, you probably got slammed.
Yeah, maybe that too, yeah. Or a politician, maybe. Or...
Oh, a politician would be great.
I'd like to meet the hygienist who could have afforded $55,000 to hunt that lion.
Yeah,
Seriously.
I would say the average, I mean, the average dentist cannot afford that hunting trip. You know, that guy's probably doing pretty well, and he's probably, you know, and he's like, he looks like he's in his 40s, you know, roughly or whatever. So I'm sure he's like on making a lot more money than your average dentist, you know. But of course, people just see dentists, oh, they make a lot of money, you
I
know.
think he
But
sold his practice after all
yeah,
this. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's up for sale.
I know it closed, and I just read something that it opened back up, but not with him. I guess with other people. You
I
know.
mean, two big things about this though. People have some misconceptions about big game hunting, how it's handled usually. This was definitely a case where this guy he basically paid them to lure them out of the hunting zone or the
Yeah.
non-hunting zone to get that trophy. Um, but for the most part, this thing is actually done for population control and to get older males out of
Hmm.
being territorial and reducing viability for the herds and whatnot, all that complicated stuff that I don't know that much about. Um, this guy just happened to kind of be a scumbag who took advantage of the system as well, so that just made it worse. On top of that, he's also been under review by the board and had to settle a sexual harassment lawsuit with his
Oh boy.
assistant. Yeah, with his assistant for groping her and doing some other even escalating things that he actually just settled for, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Daniel, about the whole hunting thing. I mean, I'm not a hunter. I mean, I thought about at least trying it, but I think the vast majority of people that, to me, just had a over-the-top reaction to what, he did, basically killing a lion.
Hmm.
They just don't understand like wildlife management. They don't understand that, most preservation is funded by hunters and all from all the permits and all that kind of stuff, and the reality of life in that area for the locals,
Hmm.
that them seeing a lion get killed is not like a crazy thing. It's just that there is danger on their side of things too. That with some lions, and they understand the I guess the paradox of, yeah, we have to kill to save. Really, I mean, it's just a reality. Like most
Yeah.
tax dollars in the U.S. that I was reading is basically from hunters. So.
Mhm. Yeah, and all
But
we see is a guy with toilet bowl white veneers standing over the dead body of Mufasa.
yeah, yeah. So like most of these people that have these reactions to, like, yeah, calling it murder, and we should get this guy and put him in jail and all this. I mean, maybe he should be fined and get in trouble for breaking the rules. That he probably broke some rules there, I'm sure.
He has in the past. He's been
Yeah, yeah.
charged for in the U.S. too.
Um, but to say, like, like Jimmy Kimmel crying on TV, and it's like these same people probably, like the same day that they were crying about it or saying we should kill this guy, probably had a hamburger that day, which just blows my mind. I mean, the cattle get treated way worse than that lion did, here every day. So
Yeah, but we don't lure those cows out.
that's true.
I think that maybe that dentist should go and sue Disney and the Lion King people, and
Yeah.
we have sensationalized the lion itself into being Mufasa and Simba, whatever. We really have that like really fond. Africa's this magical place where these lions live, and then we throw them in cages here, and that's okay though. They're in cages in captivity here. I mean, there's such a
Contradiction, like, yeah.
contradiction. It just drives me bonkers.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. I would say probably 80% of the people that are so upset are not vegans. This is outrage. Let's go get a hamburger. But yeah, I don't know. To me, the guy, I mean, I don't know. From what I read, it's tough to get really the facts, because there's so much out there, like, to filter through, like, all these sensational things and people reacting on different news stations and YouTube videos and all this. I mean, I was reading a little bit about it today, but it's just tough to filter it all out. I kind of feel bad for the guy to some extent. I mean, he did probably some wrong things, but
Yeah, he might have lost his career over it.
yeah, to lose his practice, that's a huge thing. Obviously he has money though. So,
Everybody change his name and all that stuff and go work somewhere else. He'll be all right.
yeah.
But
definitely change his name and change his look. And
Yeah.
go to a different state.
But I had a patient come in not too long after that happened, and he rented a place to live. I think it was in Montana, and there's all these trophies on the walls and stuff like that. And he was just like, what would have happened if that would have been the same guy? And trying to make all these parallels, and I'm just like, I look at the guy, I'm just like, okay, out of all the millions of Americans, you really think that it's exactly the same guy? It's such, even like the local little town that I lived in, it was such a big deal, and it shouldn't have been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a bias against ugly animals, right? I mean, if they're cute, then people love them, but if they're ugly, people just don't care. Like, people don't care if you run over like a lizard or something, they just don't care, But or alligator or something in Florida. I mean, how many alligators get killed,
Yeah.
It's like for shoes, for boots,
Dude.
Food, yeah, and food too, yeah.
They are delicious.
Yeah, have you tried it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried any reptiles that I know of. I don't know. Just mammals, but yeah. So I don't know. It's just that was totally overblown. That was ridiculous, I think. But don't blame him for being a dentist. That's all. That's no relation to being a dentist.
That was like the big pile of kindling under him being a jerk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because I was thinking if it was, I mean, obviously if it was somebody local that did it, somebody in Africa, I mean, it wouldn't be a story,
Mm-hmm.
Be throwing the rich white guy from America. Yeah, he's like.
Yeah, you don't see the same outrage over poachers over there, like wiping out elephants.
Right, exactly. I mean, plenty of hunters too, from what I was reading too. Like a lot of hunters, probably most hunters that are, very well known and very into and like that's their full-time job basically is hunting, or running about hunting or whatever. They were saying some bad things about the guy too, like you were saying, Daniel. Like he's done some stuff in the past as far as, breaking the rules and some of the rules he was doing. Like one guy I was reading something he wrote that like when he hunts, like he's never hunted in Africa, but if he was gonna hunt, he would go out there first, not to hunt, just to kind of check out the place, check out the animals, learn the environment, learn how things work. Whereas this guy just, as far as I know, he just went there, he found somebody that was going to take him out for the hunt, but didn't really have much background on what he was hunting and the environment and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of hunters see that as kind of a negative, I guess, kind of a black eye on hunters. But I'm not a hunter, so I can't really speak too much about it. It's only from what I read and hear, but but it's just, for me, it's the poor, ugly animals that I feel bad for. All right. So, anything else, guys, you want to talk about, or I can share my experience. I went to American Eagle Instruments up in
Really?
Yeah, for that RDH Roundtable. Not Roundtable. Yeah, that's what we call this. It's like Summit. They call it. Like every year, they invite a couple of hygienists out there just to give feedback and talk about stuff, and it was pretty interesting. I was there for, I think it was 2 days, two full days, and then after that I went cycling up in Glacier National Park. But it was interesting to see. Like they gave us a tour of the factory. They gave us a presentation of the company and the history of the company. I can't get into too much details. Some of the stuff that I saw and stuff I can't say, but it's pretty nice to see how things work behind the scenes, and it's very nice to. Because I've always promoted the product, the American Eagle Instruments, and it's always nice to see the company story behind it. And they're very nice people, And I was very surprised that a lot of it was a lot of hand, by hand. I thought it was mostly machines doing this stuff.
Oh wow!
But they have a lot of people. They have people there that basically sharpen instruments. That's what they do, and. Yeah, isn't that crazy? I was surprised by that, and they made the point about the whole XP technology and no sharpening needed and that kind of stuff, and how it's difficult for hygienists to really be for the average hygienist to be really good at keeping that same angle, factory angle, and these guys that are doing it there, it takes them a couple of years just to be good at it, and that's all they do for the most part. and it's pretty interesting. They have like a program where they hire like disabled people, and they do like the packaging part, and it's a real nice company. It's like really good people, and it's really nice to see. Yeah.
Glad I'm supporting that. I just changed over all my 10 hygiene kits to American Eagle Instruments.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, I think I just learned about the whole XP technology, the shaving versus popping stuff off and things like that. And Lewis sent me a video to look at to try and kind of help me figure that out, because I'm switching over my stuff too, just to try and see if I like it or not. It looks very interesting. I still worry, and it's always in the back of my mind until I get the hang of it. Just popping off feels so good.
I know.
You can still do it. You can still do it.
I mean, that's the only negative, if I would say there's a negative to the XP style, is that it's a different technique, like you said, and it's also handling the instruments. You really have to be careful how you handle instruments, and it comes with the instructions and stuff. But things like, probably the ideal way to do it is keep them in cassettes, by themselves, and you have to watch with like the ultrasonic solution that you use. Most are fine, but sometimes if you use the wrong, they have a whole list on their site of which ones are okay to use. But if you like commingle sometimes with like other instruments, it could corrode the XP instruments. And I had that experience over the years. But you have to kind of learn how to kind of manage them and kind of keep them. See, my issue in my clinic is things get beat up so much, and it's tough to control what they do sometimes.
So is that like if it's in the ultrasonic solution with like a restorative or a endo cassette, then that's what corrodes it, or?
Yeah, that's possible. One reason it could corrode it. Like
so
if you
two different cassettes in the same solution.
Or just two, like having basically what my issue was, like I was tying instruments together, so I didn't have cassettes, right?
Okay.
So if you just like throw them in together, so you have like all these different instruments, like people in the lab will just grab a bunch of instruments and tie them up and throw them in the solution. So now you have all these like commingled instruments and things like that. So, but I mean that's the only downside. And I would say if you are a hygienist that pretty much hand scales, they're probably not the instrument for you. I mean, I think like to scale like heavy calculus, I wouldn't use it for that. But other than that, like those two things, just managing the instruments and basically, not use it for heavy calculus, because it's just for me. Well, for me personally, I just like to power scale everything. So.
Yeah, I think they make excellent finishing tools for after power scaling.
Yeah, exactly. They're like beautiful for fine scaling.
Mm-hmm.
I have the double Gracie. I don't use it too much, but it's nice to have every now and then.
Is that the Scandette, the yellow one?
Yeah. So you have like the 11-12 and the 13-14.
Yeah.
All like a one instrument.
That's awesome.
I know it sounds weird, but I mean you have to see it.
I use that, and I use the blackjack, the one that's
that's the main one.
The anterior sickle curette combo.
Yeah. I just posted a video like about 2 hours ago on the double Gracie. I'm gonna do a blog post tomorrow, kind of finish it up. I just actually ordered a bunch of new American Eagle, the Tough Talon one, or Talon Tough, the TT. It's their stainless steel version of their instruments. Because I wanted to try it just to kind of do reviews on them and stuff, but also because in my case, in my particular office, they're so rough with the instruments, And we have like Statim autoclaves, so it's like very small space, so it's kind of tough to get cassettes in there. It's not tough, but it just takes up more room. And we have like so much turnover in there, so I just ended up getting the stainless steel version this time around. But I just want to play with it, see how it is, and do a review on them and stuff. But
the downside of stainless steel is you're going to have to sharpen them more often, right? They wear out faster and things like that.
You have to sharpen it basically. Yeah, the XP you don't have to sharpen at all. Like I've used Hu-Friedy, EverEdge, non-EverEdge Hu-Friedy, PDT, and now American Eagle XP, and Norden and others too. But even the EverEdge Hu-Friedy, 2-3 weeks you have to sharpen them.
I find I have to sharpen them after every use.
Yeah.
The EverEdges.
Yeah.
They've
Oh,
lasted long. I've had them since hygiene school, but
yeah,
they
they
go
last long.
dull
Yeah,
after. Yeah.
yeah. But for me, it's like even with the Hu-Friedy or the PDT, I do the same thing. I power scale mostly, so I'm really fine scaling really with the hand scaling. I don't really do any moderate or heavy scaling at all, hand scaling. So
Do you know if the XP instruments can be sharpened, or is it just completely impractical?
they can be sharpened, but they don't recommend it.
Hmm.
But they can be because they made the point in part of the presentation they gave us that a lot of people will think that the gold color is like just a like superficial coating, but it's really like embedded into the substrate metal. A lot of people think that metal below the gold layer is like a weak metal. So like
Right.
once you go past the gold, it's going to be weak, but that isn't the case. The actual metal below that is actually high-end metal. So even if you go past the gold, it's still going to be a sharp, like a high-quality metal. You know what I'm saying? It's just that like it's the actual XP process that makes it sharp and free. So, but
Interesting.
you'll see, Daniel, when you give it a whirl.
Yeah, I've had the Scandettes for like a year and a half now, maybe
Yeah,
2 years, and some
yeah,
of them are starting to dull out a bit. I've never actually tried sharpening them, which is a testament to the instruments
yeah. It
since
is.
it's been 2 years.
Because to me, that's the game changer, though. Is like not having to sharpen it at all. You know, because so. And mine lasted about between 12, 13 months. But that's me like power scaling mostly, and then fine scaling. I'm sure if you're doing heavy hand scaling, it's not going to last as long.
Yeah.
But but they're more expensive too. They're like $50. PDT and their stainless steel versions around the $30 range, 30, $32. The XP is about $50. But I always make the point that if you count the actual cost that you're paying a hygienist to sharpen, it's kind of a wash. But,
I always get kind of crucified every time I say how much I hate to sharpen. Or like, you gotta do it. Like I freaking know I hate doing it though. It's just the
yeah,
work.
It's tedious.
Yeah.
yeah, it is. What I do is so because I power scale mostly, I don't have to sharpen as much.
Mhm.
And
And you've got that diamond edge sharpener now,
yeah, I
also,
do.
right?
Yeah, I have
I
that
have the same one.
from that company. Yeah. So what I do is I just stay after on Saturday because I work Saturdays from 9 to 2, and then I stay after work. I grab all my instruments and I just sharpen everything. Not my XP, but my other ones. I just sharpen everything. And then, like at the same time, I usually do my videos and stuff for the blog at the same time. So if somebody's staying with me and to do a video, I just do the video and then I just do the sharpening. And I probably do it like once or twice, once a week or once every 2 weeks, usually. I know some hygienists like sharpen like all the time, like every patient almost. But to me, I don't see a need for that. But only if you're gonna hand scale like your perio patients like crazy. But I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah. All right, guys. So it's been a while, so I'll let you guys. We'll finish up right there, and I'll have this posted relatively soon, probably.
Cool.
All right. So let me just stop the broadcast right there.